continue this week. We started last week with some of the halachos of just being outside, which, the summertime, we're spending more, and it doesn't feel like summer outside today, but, the summertime is here, and we spend a lot more time outside, especially, on Shabbos. I wanted to go through this all different halachos, some very interesting things that come up that apply to all different other areas. So I wanted to go through just, a number of these halachos. So last week we dealt with the halachos primarily of trees. We spent most of the night speaking about trees, the different halachos that there are. So just a very quick recap. You're not allowed to use a tree on Shabbos anywhere above 3 tvachim off the ground, which is about 10 inches, about a foot off the ground. So you're not allowed to use it in any which way. And we said, what does using it mean? So we said to wipe your hand on it, that's not considered using it if your hands get dirty outside or something. But to lean on a tree, to put something on a tree, hang something on a tree, also to lean on a tree on Shabbos. There's a gzeira midrabanan. The halacha says, ein ulin be'ilan, you're not allowed to climb on a tree. Ve'ein mishtamshin be'mechuber lekarka klal. There's an iser midrabanan, you're not allowed to use anything that's mechuber to the karka at all, anything that's growing. Gzeira shemayala ve'yitlosh. There's a gzeira that you're going to, break off pieces of the tree. You're going to climb on it and break off pieces and snap off pieces. The gzeira of kotzer. Yeah.
What's the avmelacha?
Kotzer. Yeah. No, this is a halacha, a ferish, and halacha and chazal. You're not allowed to take something off of a tree or hang something on a tree. It's all part of the same gzeira. You're not allowed to, above 10 inches off the ground, you can't, again, other than wiping your hand on a tree, but you can't do or use a tree in any way.
What about the shade?
No, the shade is mutter. Yeah, for the shade is for sure mutter. But it means the wood of the tree, you're not allowed to lean on it, climb on it, take something down from it. Kids are playing with a ball and it gets stuck in bushes. If the bushes are above 12 inches off the ground, so the kids could take it down. They could, do whatever they want, but you're not allowed to take the ball down for them. We went through a bunch of this last week, and also hanging things from trees and hanging things from trees. And we went through all this, swings and all those types of halachos. And we also dealt a little bit with the halachos of muktzah. Right, we spoke also last week about muktzah outside, things that are connected, moving branches and things like that. So we said halacha maisa. We did that. We spoke about that moving. Yeah. So halacha maisa, you can't move it with your hands, but you can move it, above your elbow. Right. Okay. So I want to speak about some more halachos that apply, some more gzeros that apply to being outside. Sometimes these are halachos that we don't come across necessarily so frequently. So it's so interesting to speak about it. So one of those malachos of outside, or the major outside malachos, is chorish, which is plowing. Right, the malach of plowing, which in the olden days they would plow the ground with a plow and get it ready for planting, etc. So that's the av malacha. The av malacha is chorish. But Chazal say very clearly that anything that is considered to be yipui ara, anything that is enhancing to the ground, is a tolda of chorish, not a gzeira, not a derbanan, but a tolda, meaning it's min haTorah. Anything that I do that enhances the ground, even if it's not an act of plowing, it's not an act of dragging a bench, a plow and making a furrow, that anything I do that is improving the usefulness of the ground, for whatever I want to use it for, that is also a malacha min haTorah of choresh. Now this is something a lot of people are not necessarily aware of. I remember years ago when I was living in Chicago, I used to have a chavrusa with somebody, at night with a person, not a member of the kol, a member of the community. And he had a very hard time with this idea, and I just gave him as a mashal. But if a person is walking on Shabbos, let's say they're walking up to their front house, picturing in America, where you have a front lawn in front of your house. But here also, let's say you're in your yard and you have grass, and when you're walking, let's say your foot hits a bump in the ground, and it moves a little bit like that, and you're like, oh no, that's not nice. Somebody could trip on that, and you take your foot and you tamp down the ground and make it smooth. That is a malacha min haTorah of choresh, doraisa. That's plowing on Shabbos, because anything that I'm doing that is improving the usability of the ground, that's a malacha of choresh. So much so that we'll get to it in a few minutes, that there's a gzeira, you're not allowed to play with a ball outside on the ground, right? Because you may see an imperfection in the ground and flatten it out, which we'll get to in a second. But it's like a real malacha min haTorah, not a gzeira. There's a number of things that are included in this, a number of things that are included in this. This condition that Chazal called yipui ara, anything that is improving the ground. And the truth of the matter is that a lot of what I'll interact with outside with the ground, it could be. We'll get to that in a second in terms of the other malachos that are available over there. So let's talk about this now. So Chazal included in this iser of stuff that we can't do outside. There's a halacha that we're not allowed to play with a ball outside on the ground. In other words, on any type of a ball game where the ball requires the ground to be flat. And if the ball would hit something and turn in a funny way, during the week I would go over, and smooth out that area. So that type of a game is asr. So that's just, to make it clear. So let's say playing marbles or something like that is for sure asr, because that for sure needs the ground to be smooth. You need them to go straight. I don't know if anyone really plays marbles anymore nowadays.
You
play like on.
We sit the nuts.
With the apricot.
Right, ajulim, right. Certainly playing something like golf outside. If you had a mini golf thing in your backyard or something, you certainly couldn't do that, because that for sure needs the ball to go around. The postscript says even something like basketball is not allowed to be played. Again, we'll talk about on concrete in a second if it's different. But something like basketball also, because the ball bouncing, needs to bounce straight. Soccer or American football, or whatever they call soccer, what they call football here, whatever soccer there. So that I've seen two opinions in the postscript. There are two people two postscript that I spoke to about this. One said it's asr because for the same reason. The other said that in a soccer field there's always imperfections. That it's a much more gross type of a movement of the ball, that it's not dependent on the smoothness of the ground. But whatever it is, that playing a ball outside is not allowed. So that means if you want to play with your kids, you could sometimes do roll the ball back and forth. You're really not supposed to play that on Shabbos if you're sitting outside.
It's more like a catch game.
Yeah, catch is fine. Catch is fine. If it's not rolling on the ground, that's fine. If it's not a game that baseball, let's say if you would be allowed to play sports on Shabbos, let's say or kids that are allowed to, right? So playing baseball would be okay, because that doesn't. Well, maybe also there if the ball bounces funny, you would smooth out the ground. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's a gzera that we have. You're not allowed to play with a ball outside again, because it's very easy to go ahead and just as a matter of course smooth out the ground to make sure that the ball is going okay. Now I mentioned concrete or asphalt. There's also something that people don't necessarily realize, but this gzera applies there as well, even to concrete. Anything I'm doing outside that is, even not for planting purposes, but just for improving the fitness of the ground for what I'm using it for, is a told of choresh. So the Magen Avram speaks about this, that if there's debris on a pathway, debris on a sidewalk, bits and pieces of stuff. So now it's interesting. I've spoken to Postman about this. I think even I have my notes over here from when I spoke to Postman about it. They say something like gum that is stuck to a tile floor, that's for sure not going to be considered to be choresh. Gums, that's clearly something that's distinct. But once you have let's say a driveway where you have to put those black pebbles that become loose from the driveway, what I'm talking about, or other little rocks or pebbles that land. So to take your foot and kick that in order to smooth out the path, according to the Magen Avram quotes this, he says it's something called mesakel, which is smoothing out a pavement, and he says it's also to do that on Shabbos also, as a gzera, not a gzera, as a told of choresh. Yeah, Minat Torah.
I have a question. So I have this Mr. Das. I think I tripped at the shuk once. I slid on something. So now, I don't want anyone to trip her anyway. So I live by the stairs that go up to my house, outside, public stairs. And above, I have an oak tree. So little acorns are always on the tree. So I'm always kicking them aside.
That's mutter. I think that's mutter. Acorns are clearly distinct. That's not.
So they're clearly distinct because of
that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing.
You can sweep leaves or debris off your driveway. I'm saying if you need to clean.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know, maybe leaves taken off. It's also, but something like let's say I thought you were going to say, let's say sometimes in the older staircases, so some of the rocks kind of will fall down and it'll crumble a little bit on the sides, and you'll have those little rocks or a little pile of rocks.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that wouldn't be included in this. That's an interesting shot. I would try to ask Rabbi Weiss that. I'm not sure. In other words, if you're walking,
trip because you go downstairs and are crumbling, right? And then
so you have to. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, in general, the halacha is to stop a person from tripping or from getting hurt. So if it's a shayla of pikuach nefesh, obviously, so then we call hatzala and we do whatever we need to do. That happened once here. It happened when I was walking here in Ramat Beit, by Eshkoli on the main street. And on Shabbos night and Friday night with my wife and I don't remember where we were going to or from, and one of those gutter, those big metal gutter things was just not there, and the whole thing was just open, mamish open on the side of the sidewalk, and I saw one of those Mishmar Gavul guys, was driving by. I wasn't sure. I mean, that's the deraisa to stop him and have him stop the brakes on the car and all these things. But I really thought it was a sakana that to have this thing open there. I didn't know exactly what. I did stop him. I told him I don't know if what they did about it, but he got out and took a look, etc. But it's something that's a sakana, that's a sakana, especially for the rabbin. So certainly you could do derabanans, and even in terms of the rice. Something like this, where a person may trip on it or not, I'm not sure if you would be able to wipe it away in this case. I don't know.
On AstroTurf, you could play ball with your kids then.
On AstroTurf, you could play ball. Yeah, I mean, it's but what's underneath it? But isn't there?
There's like sand.
But can that also get smoothed out? In other words, does it?
But wouldn't you have to know, like when you have to see that it was uneven, like you wouldn't be able to tell whether you were improving something.
So I'm not sure. I mean, we have in our backyard, we have like the grass, but it's over a layer of like pebbles, of like rocks and stuff that was just we're renting there. So I'm not sure, because you could smooth it out. You know what I mean? You could if
it's professionally installed, you
so
can't
then
tell.
Then it was probably so then that's probably like like the postscript say nowadays of playing on a tiled floor is mutter. So it could be that's mutter. That's interesting. I'll try to ask everybody says as well. Okay, I'm not sure. Yeah, I see. If it's the type of thing that actually can't bump at all, you can't make any dents in it or any bumps, then that would be mutter. Anyway, just the point is you have to be kind of careful with all these things. First of all, you have to understand that moving mukta also on Shabbos, just in general, since we're talking about moving things with your feet. So it could be this may be an issue actually. I'm just thinking about it. There's an interesting psak that the halacha normally is when it comes to mukta. We mentioned this last week. You're not allowed to move mukta with your hands. And Rav Moshe Feinstein says anywhere, including your forearm, that's all considered to be like normal movement. But from your elbows and up, using your shoulder, using your biceps, using your mouth, moving anything with another part of your body is considered to be tiltul begufo, and you're allowed to move mukta that way on Shabbos. With your feet also, right? With your feet also. Oh, so here it says Shlomo Zalman in Shmir Shabbos Kiluchas, he quotes Shlomo Zalman Auerbach that kicking things that are normally kicked is not considered tiltul begufo, and he says specifically like outside kicking pebbles. So if so to kick a piece of muktzah that would be on the floor, let's say some raw meat, it fell out of the freezer and it's on the floor, so that you could kick it to the side, or pick it up with your mouth and put it back in the freezer, or something like that. That's what we usually do when something like that happens. But if you're outside and you're talking about kicking a pebble or something that you normally kick, something you normally push around with your foot, so then it could be that it's also, I'm saying, like those types of things that you're talking about, those acorns that fall down, those little acorns. But that would be mutter though if there'd be a question of somebody tripping. I definitely hear what you're saying.
I will see probably not trip. But
I think that would be mutter.
Can you sweep an area that you want clean? Like on your pesset or something, if it's like leaves and branches? Or?
So well, sweeping or pesset, there's a separate issue when it comes to sweeping. Which is like this. It's similar, but anything that's like choresh outside is going to be boneh if you're talking about like in a house. In other words, like smoothing out a wall or a floor of a house is also malacha, not choresh, because this is not a plowable place, but it's boneh. Like on the stairs and those types of things would probably be more a question of boneh than of choresh. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things that you could do. What's that? What would you ask?
Like sweeping on your pesset, let's say.
So the question is like, I'm sorry. So when it comes to sweeping, so Chazal, there's a special zera when it comes to sweeping. It's its own siman Shulchan Aruch that because in the process of sweeping, din kibud habayis, right? That's the halachos of sweeping at the house. So and here he gets into the halacha of in the olden days they used to have like dirt floors, and the floors would have gaps in it, and when you would sweep, you would be filling in those gaps. It's called mashvei gumos. You would be smoothing out the floor, and that's also to do on Shabbos, even if it's not your kavana, and maybe you're going to find a crack and you're going to fill it in. So they made a gzeira also l'chaved abayis. You're not allowed to sweep over it, but it says ele imkein a karka merutzaf. Unless it's completely, floored, paved over it. So Allah Almighty, practically speaking, indoors there's no shaila that you're allowed to sweep and sweep up, and that's what we do. When it comes to sweeping outdoors, so the Shulchan Aruch speaks about this. The v'yesh machmir mafil b'merutzav. There are those that are machmir even if it's merutzav. And the Mishnah Berurah says, so therefore, outdoors, places even if they're paved. There's a makom to be machmir. There's makom to be more machmir. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the minhag is here in Israel in terms of a merpeset that's up on the top floor. That's for sure mutter. But if you have like a merpeset that's outside, connected to your yard or something along those lines, I'm not sure if you're allowed to sweep that. If you're allowed to sweep that.
Like when you're done eating,
I see.
like you sweep.
in the sukkah like that. In the sukkah, I think you're allowed to sweep. Unless it's dirt, unless it's a dirt floor. In the sukkah, then I don't know if it make the same gzera. Okay, it's also a good question. I'll have to try to find it out. Good question. Okay. In addition to this, just connected to this whole same gzera of smoothing out the ground, flattening out the ground. If somebody's shoe gets muddy on Shabbos or dirty on Shabbos, you're not allowed to wipe it off on the ground because on the grass or on the dirt, because anywhere that you're going to be wiping it, you're going to be smoothing out the ground. And even though it's not your kavanah and it's not what your intention to do, so maybe it wouldn't be an isur d'oraisa, but it would be a malacha sheina tzricha gufa, which is also
But on concrete you could?
On concrete you could, yeah. On concrete you could wipe it off. But wipe it off on a ground in a place that it's going to smooth it out, so that's going to be a problem. I just want to bring one other point which I mentioned last week, but I didn't mention a few contexts which I was thinking about today, just because I was thinking about this idea of cleaning the merpeset and stuff like that. But we spoke last week also about this idea of bona, that there's this malacha on Shabbos of construction. We just mentioned a minute ago. A lot of things that you do in the house to improve anything that's connected to the house that's built is a malacha of bona. Like we mentioned, if a screen pops out of a window on Shabbos, so to put the screen back in, you're not allowed to do that on Shabbos. And we said that when it comes to bona, even if something is not attached, right? Normally you think of bona, construction, hammers and nails and fastening something to the house. But we mentioned that even if something is not attached, even if something is just resting there, gravity is holding it in place. But if it's something that's meant to be there, and it's meant to be batel to the house, it's meant to be like a part of the house, so then bona applies to it as well. I'll give a few examples. Let's say a rug in a room that even though it's not fastened down, but if it's there and it stays there all the time, so you're not allowed to remove that rug on Shabbos. We said drop ceiling tiles, even though they're not fastened in any way, but to open up drop ceiling tiles in the Isser Torah on Shabbos. Of stira, of deconstruction. So there's a question about this inside and outside when it comes to like a drain or a sponge hole. So is that considered to be bona or not, or in stira to open up a sponge hole? So I just want to address this. So outside, if you've got like a drain, let's say, on the side of your merpeset, one of those things like those little like metal or plastic things. So you're not allowed to pick that up on Shabbos or put it in on Shabbos if you see it on the side, even to kick it with your foot. That's considered to be binyan. That's something that's meant to be there. It's meant to stay there. Even if it's meant to be picked up to be cleaned every now and then, it's meant to be a part of the ground. It's not meant to to come and go. So that's something. If you're like tidying up outside or something, and you see that little grate is out of place or some things, you're not allowed to kick it and make sure that it goes into place. That's an issue of bona. Inside that also applies. So the poskim say like this: a sponge hole cover that has some sort of a handle on it, any sort of a handle or something that makes it clear that it's meant to come up and down. That it's not one of those just like caps of biyuv that is there that you pull off in an emergency, but it's really meant to be a part of the floor. It's just because you don't want to have to break up the tiles, so they leave you a cap there, right? So that is an issue of opinion on Shabbos. The type of a cap that's meant to stay down and it stays down all the time. That can't be opened up on Shabbos. If somebody has a flood in their bathroom, so even though during the week, in a second, you would just take something and pry up that thing and let the water go down, so you cannot do that on Shabbos. Unless it's a sponge hole where the cap has some sort of a handle or some sort of a indicator on it that it's meant to come on and off. Like a sponge thing, they'll have sometimes the thing on the side that lets you put something in to pick it up, or they'll have like the little handle across the top or something. It looks different. If you know what I'm talking about? Anybody know what I'm talking about? It looks different. So one of those you could pick up and down, but a sponge. I remember when we lived in a house, the previous one before now, so we had one of those sponge holes that we wanted to be able to do. It was very hard to lift up and down, and also I made a handle for it, like out of a wire, like wrapped a wire around it and made it, and that way we could open it up. But that's something that's just important to remember, because again, binyan and stira, these things apply even if there's no fastening taking place. We said putting a bookshelf in, just putting a bookshelf onto the pegs and letting it sit there, but leaving it there permanently, you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. So, if a bookshelf slips off, you're not allowed to replace it on Shabbos. That's mamash shayla binyan min haTorah. Okay, that's as far as the malacha of choresh is concerned. As far as smoothing out the ground and making the ground, another aspect of choresh, which is actually binyan or choresh, is the any questions about this? Anything to talk? Okay, making a furrow, making furrows in the ground, making holes in the ground, making anything that's gouging into the ground. So that's also an issue of choresh, right? That's actually what plowing was. Plowing was making a furrow in the ground.
So somebody takes their garden chair.
Oh, that's what we're going to get to in a second. Very good. Excellent. Exactly what we're going to get to in a minute. But making a furrow in the ground in order to plant, that is the av malacha of plowing on Shabbos. That's the malacha of choresh. So therefore, anything that I'm doing, that making any sort of a gouge in the ground or a hole in the ground, is choresh. Now, just to understand the malacha a little bit better, there's really three potential angles for why I would be making a hole in the ground. One angle is I'm making a hole in the ground in order to improve the ground for planting purposes. That would be choresh. Another reason I can make a hole in the ground is to hide something there, right? Or to sink the foundations of a building, right? So I'm also going to dig the same hole. It'll look the same way, right? But if I'm digging for those purposes, then it's binyan, right? If I'm digging a hole in order to hide something. A third reason I may dig a hole is because I want the dirt, right? So digging a hole for the dirt is a malacha she'eina tzricha l'gufo, right? That's what it's termed in Chazal, and that's not asher min haTorah. It's asher midrabanan, right? To make a hole when my kavana is not for the hole. Both not in terms of using the hole to hold something, and not in terms of improving the ground. So that's called the malacha she'eina tzricha l'gufo, and that's aser only midrabanan. Okay, that's just important to realize because only a constructive hole and a constructive gouge, one that's doing something purposeful, is considered to be an iser min haTorah. Right, but if I'm making a furrow in the ground and it's leaving a hole in an area where I don't want, right, where I don't care about it, or let's say it's in a public place where I don't care what happens over there, so then it's only aser midrabanan, to drag a bench, which we'll see, how that can potentially impact in a minute. Okay, now what this means practically, but most of the time we don't go out and dig, not during the week and not on Shabbos. But we have to make sure that we're not doing things that are digging furrows in the ground. We have to make sure that we're not doing things that are doing this. So we're also going to speak about a few different topics, which I'll just bring up. Some that are problematic, some that are not problematic. So first of all, high heels. Right? They speak about high heels. Are you allowed to wear high heels if you're walking on soft ground where it's going to make holes in the ground? So the post can discuss various different reasons, but they say it's mutter. They say it's mutter to wear high heels. First of all, there's no kavana. Nobody has kavana to make the holes, and that's not the point of what's happening. The one thing they say though is that if a person is walking in very very soft ground, they should try to walk in such a way that it's not helping them by gouging out their steps. You know what I mean? In other words, if it's like useful to them to be making those gouges while they're walking because it's helping them walk, so that makes it more problematic. Whatever, a person should just try to walk walk carefully, which we'll see in a minute. Everybody, if you're walking on grass and stuff like that you're not going to pull out maybe something. Everybody has to be careful though, which we'll see in a second. That's one thing I speak about in terms of high heels. Another thing I talk about is in terms of sukkahs. Let's say you're outside, or if you're not on sukkahs, just during a regular Shabbos, if you've got lawn furniture, so are you allowed to put a lawn chair down if it's going to sink into the ground a little bit, or then or pull out a lawn chair if it's in the ground. So the halacha there is also that it's mutter. That's also there's no kavanah to make the hole. If you're just sinking it in, it's the hole is covered up, and if it's in the ground already and you're pulling it out and the hole is there, that's not considered to be plowing either. So something that is not meant to be staked into the ground. Something that is, like a chair or a table or something like that just ends up sinking a little into the ground, so it's mutter to pull it up, even though you're going to pull out a little bit of dirt around it. Is it possible to open a window? Is it possible to open a window?
Yeah, you can open the door.
Is that a possibility?
Both doors, like the glass ones, and then there can be more air. Yeah.
If you don't mind, because it's going to get too cold for everybody. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now the other case that's discussed is the case of dragging something outside. If you're allowed to drag something, if it's going to cause a furrow, it's going to cause a gouge in the ground. So the poskim say like this: if it's definitely going to happen, if it's something, let's say it's very heavy and the ground is very soft, and it's definitely going to cause a gouge, then the halach is that it's aser to do. Because like you said, even though it's making a gouge that you're not interested in, right? We don't plant our fields nowadays, and we don't hide in our fields, things nowadays. But even though that's still aser to do with Rabbanan. In other words, to make a furrow in the ground, even that's mekalkel, even though it's ruining my ground, it's still aser to do that with Rabbanan. So to drag a bench, even when I know for sure it's going to make a furrow, that is aser to do. However, it's called a psik reisha, right? I think we discussed this other times in the class, which we'll talk more again tonight. The concept of a psik reisha. Psik reisha is a concept in halacha, in Shabbos, and other areas also, in all areas of halacha, where I'm accountable for what I'm doing, even though I'm not intending to do it. Right? In other words, what am I doing here? I'm dragging a bench. I'm not thinking about plowing. I'm not thinking about Shabbos. I'm not thinking about any of that. I just want to get a bench from point A to point B. Right, but if as a direct result of me moving that bench, it's going to make a furrow, so that's called a psik reisha, and I'm not allowed to do that on Shabbos. Right? And this is why you're not allowed to turn on the hot water tap. Right, when you turn on the hot water in the sink, so now there's cold water that's going into the boiler that's getting cooked. Right, so even though I'm not cooking that water, I have nothing to do with that water. I don't care about that water. But because my act of turning on the tap over here is direct, even though that's mutter to do, to turn on the water, but it's directly resulting in that water getting cooked, so that relates to me. Finally, another example, just opening up a refrigerator with the light on inside, right? That's the classic example. I'm opening a door. That's mutter to do. There's nothing wrong with opening and closing a door on Shabbos. But if that door is connected to a light, and the light is now going to turn on and off as an immediate result of me opening and closing that door, so that's called a psik reisha, and I'm not allowed to do that on Shabbos. So the same thing here. When it comes to dragging a bench, if it's for sure going to make a charitz, it's for sure going to make a faro. It's too cold. It's cool. In school they always tell everyone else it's too cold. Everyone who's watching this is laughing right now. Okay, if I should too cold, let's close it. I'm sorry. Okay. You're used to this. Okay. If it's making a faro, it's for sure going to make a faro, then it's usher to do. Again, even though it's usher midrabanan, but we're not allowed to do it. But what if it's a case where I don't know? I don't know if it's going to make a faro or not. Let's say it's a regular chair and it's not such soft ground. I don't know. It may or may not. I'm certainly not interested in making the faro. So are you allowed to do it? Then the halacha is yes. In other words, this idea, this thing that a psik reisha is aser, that I'm doing X and Y is resulting, and therefore it's aser to do, that's only if it's for sure going to happen. But if there's a question about it, there's a suffix about it, let's say take the case of the refrigerator, let's say maybe the light was unplugged before Shabbos, maybe not, I'm not sure, I don't remember what happened. So in a case like that, let's say, maybe not halacha ma'isa because it's a little bit more complicated over there for a different reason. What would be another case of a suffix psik reisha? Another case is like this. Let's say you're not allowed to trap on Shabbos. This is a case that the Mishnah Berurah gives. You're not allowed to trap things on Shabbos. And let's say I want to close my freezer, and as I'm about to close my freezer, I think I see a fly in there now, right? So the halach is I'm not allowed to trap it, right? If there's a fly in my freezer, I'm not allowed to trap it. I have to shoo him out before I close my freezer. Otherwise, I'm not allowed to. The Gemara speaks about this. I'm sorry?
It's like you shoo them out. So if you see like a spider or a bug or something,
you're not allowed to trap bugs on Shabbos. You're not allowed to trap bugs on Shabbos, except under circumstances where it's going to, hurt a person or something. If it's like a bee that's going to sting. And I just spoke to her vice about this a couple of weeks ago. Somebody asked me about this. Let's say there's a person who really gets freaked out by cockroaches or something like that. So then he said also you'd be allowed to.
we have a house full of girls. We cannot. This is like.
Yeah. So no, in a situation where a person is going to be very distressed, that was the lashon I used.
Then
you're allowed to trap it. Then you're allowed to trap it.
And then get rid of it.
Put the cup on top of it and then take it out.
Yeah. It'd be better to sweep it out. It'd be better if you could sweep it out. You know what I mean? Without killing it. But it'd be better. But if you have to trap it to stop it from distressing people severely. So then you're allowed to trap it.
I'm a psik reisha, I think. I don't know if it's okay. So we have galaim in our house. Motion sensor. Motion. Anyways, and when you walk by it, it goes up. It goes. Anyways, once in a while we'll forget to change the setting to Shabbos.
Right.
And so they're on all over the house.
Right.
So previously we had heard that it's not your intention to make them go off, but by moving, you're going to.
Excellent. Okay, so yes and no. You're asking a very complicated question. The answer is yes and no. One would think that's considered to be a psik reisha, and there's the same thing, a motion detector light outside, right? Let's say your neighbor has a motion. Let's say in America, there's a lot of places, with non-Jewish neighbors with motion sensor lights on Shabbos. So most poskim assume that that's considered to be a psik reisha, since my walking is directly going to cause the light to go on. Let's start with that idea. However, there's a few points over here. Number one, the type of lights that you're talking about, usually in these motion sensors, are LEDs. LED lights that like the little red light that comes on or anything like that. Now, LED lights are a very, very low level malacha, if a malacha at all. It's a very, very low. It's not a fire. It's not electricity. It's like a very, very low. It's a derabanan, right? That's for sure. And it's not like it's certainly not a deraisa. It's certainly not a deraisa. So the poskim say because it's an LED. Well, any non which is really only LEDs. Even fluorescent lights start with a fire. In other words, any light that has no fire involvement at all.
It's not illuminating. Like a refrigerator door by accident, it's illuminating.
That's an incandescent bulb.
So,
But it doesn't. An LED light just works on like electrons. It's not. Everything works on electrons, but it's not the same. There's no fire there. Nothing heats up. There's no. The issue with a light, either an incandescent bulb or a fluorescent bulb. Because for a fluorescent bulb, it starts in the exact same way. When you turn on a fluorescent, it like blinks in the end. It's the same thing as a regular bulb, where you have a piece of metal that gets red hot. That's called a fire. A burning piece of metal is called a fire in halacha. So turning on a light switch, fluorescent or regular, so that's lighting a fire. We can't do that on Shabbos. But an LED light is not fire. There's no fire there. It's derabanan. It's using electricity like on a fan or a radio or a hearing aid, let's say, all of those things are all midrabanan. There's no when there's no heat element involved in electricity, then it's derabanan. So that's first of all. So in the case that you're describing, so in that case, poskim are lenient. If you need to move around, then you're allowed to. Like I have friends, students that go places. To family members where they, let's say they're not Shomer Shabbos and they have an alarm system, they keep the door on an alarm, and not an alarm, but like what you're describing, when you open the door, the lights go off. So they say, are we allowed to leave the apartment till Shabbos? Allah says yes. If you need to go to shul, you need to come in from shul. You shouldn't just like go in and out for no reason. You know what I mean? You shouldn't just do that.
Hotels, I guess, also could have.
Hotels, yeah, there's also the same idea when it comes to camera. I mean, all of Yerushalayim has cameras. The cameras they say is even lighter than this. All of Yerushalayim, anyone who goes to the hotel Shabbos is on camera, of course. Anywhere, all over the place.
How about the neighbor's security light? You can walk by.
Oh, so then let's get back to that. So now, but that's a real deraisa we're talking about there, right? Those lights that go on are real deraisas. So most poskim, at least years ago when I looked into this, most poskim were machmir about this and said that it's asur to do, and you have to try to cross the street.
So you have to
no. So okay, unless it's a case where you have no other choice, so then you should like try not to benefit from the light. And if you're not benefiting from the light, then it's like dragging the bench in a way when you don't want the charitz, and it makes it only derabanan, and because you're stuck and you have no choice, and then you're allowed to do it. Let's say that's okay. However, what I'll tell you like this: so there are poskim who are lenient completely about this, and this would also apply to your case. And this is Rav Vosner, Shevet Alevi in the Shas Chuvas. So he writes over there that the whole concept of a psik reisha is only when there's a certain a maisa, something a maisa that I'm doing that is not relating to this malacha, but the malacha is happening on the side. But he considers this not even a maisa, right? Just walking around, just being, just movement. That's not considered to do a maisa, and he considers this mutter completely. You don't have to cross the street. Shevet Alevi writes this. So again, I don't know what post can rely on halacha maisa if I would have this situation. Definitely the chatzila you should have it shut off. But a situation like you're describing of LEDs and things like this, so then you're allowed to, you could be lenient and move around. If you need to, but again, only because it's a rabbanon, and because there's some people who say if it would be a situation where it'd be like real lights that would be turning on, so then you would only be able to move under a shasat chak, a serious situation, or there's like a trick, which is like this. It's maybe not so nice. People may not be so happy if you do it, but the halacha is that a psik reisha is only asur if you know it's going to happen, right? Like we just said before, if you have a suffix, maybe it's going to happen, maybe not. That's even mutter, right? But a person who has no idea that a psik reisha is going to happen, so according to most poskim, there's like no avera whatsoever. So what they say you could do with lachal ma'isa is like this. The case, in America, a person left their alarm on their house, and if they would open the door, the alarm would go off. So you're allowed to call a friend over to your house. So let's say you left the refrigerator light on, right? You left the fridge light on. So let's say you have a friend over, and the friend, you say to them, "Oh, you want to get something to drink? Oh, just go take some juice in the fridge." Yeah, they have no idea the light is on. In a million years, they're not thinking about it. And then they open the fridge, and they say, "Oh man, your light is on." You say, "Oh, Baruch Hashem," and you run and you take out everything you need.
You just had your friends.
So I'm telling you, there are many poskim that I permit that. Certainly with children. With children, I heard this from Sheinberg myself. With children, it's mutter for sure to tell a child to do a psik reisha. In other words, a child who doesn't relate to this at all, he has no idea he's even doing a malacha. You tell a kid, 3, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, run over to the fridge and open the door. He doesn't know he's turning on a light. He doesn't know anything. As if he heard you talking about it, he heard everyone oohing and eyeing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not. He's not doing a ma'isa malacha. He's not doing a ma'isa malacha. He's opening the door.
This
Sorry?
is your doubt.
No, 1 second. Let's back up. Let's back up for a second. 1 second. Yeah, doubtful, you could do it. If it's a suffix, you could do it, right? That's not called a psik resha. We're talking about a case where it is turning on a hot water tap. Let's say turning on a hot water tap on Shabbos, right? It's also to turn on the hot water because by turning on the tap here, I'm bringing, like I said before, cold water is getting cooked in the boiler. Now, a kid has no idea about that. He doesn't know. All the kid knows we don't turn on the hot water on Shabbos. But let's say a kid doesn't know that yet. You have a kid who's 4 years old or 5 years old or whatever, 3, doesn't know anything about the hot water, doesn't know. Again, for chinuch reasons, you don't want to teach him like this. You don't want to teach him that he's allowed to turn on the hot water on Shabbos. But to get a kid to do a psik resha is mutter to do. That's mutter if they don't know what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? That to tell them to open up the fridge where the light is going to turn on, where they have no idea that it's going to happen, that's mutter to do. At the other end of the spectrum, for a kid to do a malacha that they know is a malacha, that's usher for them to do for you, even if you didn't ask them. In other words, let's say somebody bumps into the lights and shuts off the lights in the dining room. The halacha is like this: if my kid runs over to turn on the lights for you, you don't have to stop him, right? Because my kid is, you're not mechuyev to do anything with my kid, and for my kid it's not a malacha, and for them it's mutter to do. But if your kid goes to do a malacha for you, so there's a special pasuk of the Torah. We say ata ubincha ubitecha, right? That's the pasuk we say by kiddush. That you have to make sure that your kids are not doing malacha for you. So even a 3 or 4 year old kid, a kid who doesn't know anything, 2-year-old kid who doesn't know anything about malacha, if you would run over to turn on the light for you, you have to stop him from doing that. But that's if he's doing a malacha. What we're talking about now is a psik resha, where he's doing an action that's mutter to do. It's mutter to open up a refrigerator. It's mutter to open up a front door of a house. It's going to set off something else that a person has no idea is coming. So certainly to ask a child to do that is mutter. To ask a grown-up, look, al pi halacha it's mutter, but people wouldn't be happy if you had them do it. Even they would find it hard to understand that you had them turn on your light. Exactly right. So you probably shouldn't do it. But I'm saying there's all sorts of stories about this, or about him doing things like this. Al pi halacha it's mutter. You're not breaking any halachos by doing this, according to most poskim.
Fast questions.
Yeah, sure.
So when I go visit my mother in America, and she's not from, and there's a light in the refrigerator, most times I turn it off. 80% of the time, the light never comes on during the week, let alone any other time. If I forget before Shabbos to turn it off, I never know when if I open it, if it's going to go on and off.
So, with the refrigerator, Shlomo Zalman says it's a little bit worse. That's why I said before that he says it's a little bit worse because you have a chazaka that it's on a refrigerator. In other words, this whole thing
but it isn't.
You're saying you usually keep it off?
No, it's off and off. Like it's screwed in. But it often doesn't work.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's like on and off and on.
And then
Yeah,
sometimes during the week I'll open it, it'll go on, and you realize it was there. 80% of the time it doesn't. Once in a while you open it and
that's mutter. I mean, you should try to make sure that it's obviously completely unscrewed. But if you forget, you're allowed to open it. If there's no chazaka, then what I was saying before is
you can close it.
No. Certainly can't close it. Definitely can't close it.
So if I open it, one of those times it actually
is on. No, you
on.
certainly cannot close it. No. You'd have to get you'd have to ask a non-Jew to close it, or a non-Jew you'd have to.
This all sounds great.
You can ask a non-Jew to go.
Right, yeah, until you want to close it. You could close it up until the point of you know what I mean. In other words, you could close it almost all the way up until the point of not pushing the latch. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then the two things you could do is either to get a kid or a non-Jew to close it completely, but then you're stuck with it closed. Or you can get a non-Jew.
No, because then if I open it, it'll be 80% chance that it's not going to go on.
Oh, still, even the next time. Oh, I see. Then that would be mutter. Yeah, then there would be mutter. Not to close it.
But I still can't close it.
No, but if it flickers off, you could close it. In other words, let's say while it's open, it flickers off, and right now it's off. Oh, okay. So when it's off, you could close it. You know what I mean? Because then you're not doing anything.
By closing it, I'm turning it off.
Exactly. Okay. But if it's off already, then you could close it. But what you would be able to do if it was on, and let's say it happens just regular, you open the door and you realize that you left your light on in your fridge, so you're not allowed to close the door. What you are allowed to do is to get a non-Jewish person, and but you have to do like this. It's called a remiza shelo b'derech tzivui. You have to hint to them in a non-direct way, which means like this. You have to say to them something like, we can't really use our refrigerator because there's light in the fridge. Something like that. You have to. You can't.
To get him to turn.
To get him to unscrew the. To get him to unscrew.
Just to close the door, he could.
No, to close it. You could tell a non-Jew to do a psik resha anytime. You can tell a non-Jew to turn on the hot water if you want Shabbos. If you have a non-Jew in the house,
come over and just close the door.
If you have a non-Jew in the house, you can ask him to turn on the hot water for you, and there's a separate area you can't shower and stuff like that in hot water, but a little bit of hot water you can tell a non-Jew to do a psik resha on Shabbos.
You can tell him to open the fridge for you, shut the fridge for you.
Yes. To tell a non-Jew to do a psik resha is permissible. It's not considered to be a malacha. You're telling him to do something that's mutter. He's doing, a malacha is happening secondary. It's not yours.
Not even for themselves. Like, if you're sitting there and you know the light's on in the fridge and there's a non-Jew with you, you can say, "Oh, could you open the fridge?"
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, say, open the door, get a Coke.
I thought you couldn't ask a non-Jew to do that.
It's not a
But it's a psigresha. You're telling him
can't
to open a
turn on the
door.
light.
You can't tell him to turn on the light because turning on the light is a malacha. But you're not telling him to do a malacha.
But why? Opening the door
Is a
refrigerator
mutter
is
act.
the same thing as
It's a permissible act that triggers a malacha, right? But it's not. That's not a malacha. That's not lighting
It's
a
a chain
fire.
reaction.
It's like an indirect, yeah.
It's indirect.
It's
I'm
second.
doing this, and it's
Oh,
it's secondary. That's this idea of a psigresha, where you're like, I'm dragging the bench, and it's making a furrow. I'm not intending to make a furrow. That's not my kavana. That's not my goal. I'm
but
not
it might
thinking
happen
about
as a
it.
direct result. though.
That's called a psigresha. That's exactly what it is.
What's the literal translation?
It's a little bit disturbing, but it means to cutting off the head of a chicken, psik, to remove a resha of a head, because they used
So you
to.
didn't mean to kill the chicken. That just happened.
Exactly what the Gemara says. The Gemara says that they used to use chicken heads as like toys for kids. That's what it says. Yeah, and the Gemara says psik resha v'lo yamos. Is it possible that you'll pluck off a head to let a kid play with it, and the chicken's not going to die? Like, of course the chicken's going to die when you pluck the head off, right? That's exactly what the
Wait,
concept.
so
You're happy you asked. Yeah,
so taking
yes.
that, if you left the stereo on and it's making like a grinding noise, and
What on? I'm sorry.
if you on Shabbos, if you left the stereo on
Okay.
and it's making a grinding noise,
Why would it make a grinding noise and not music?
because it
It's on, like,
does.
tape
Because
or something.
it's
okay.
because it's the
Okay.
receiver, not the.
Okay, fine. This one.
Okay.
Okay.
You couldn't ask a non-Jew to do that. Turn it off.
You couldn't ask him to. Well, first of all, if it's causing like distress and serious tsar on Shabbos, so then you're allowed to. You're allowed to ask asking a non-Jew is a derabanan. Turning off a radio is a derabanan. So you're allowed to do 2 derabanans to relieve stress on Shabbos. But let's say you don't have that heter.
Okay, let's say
of not so
your
stressful.
timer on your oven is.
Okay, so
Making it alarm.
let's talk about this for a second. This is a completely different thing. So you have to understand, when it comes to non-Jews on Shabbos, it's like this. There's two things. There's 2 types of benefit that we can get from a malacha. There's something called positive benefit, and then there's something called, we'll call it negative benefit. Now, positive benefit is I can't read; it's too dark, and he turns on the light. So he provided me with light that now lets me do what I wanted to do. It was really, really, really hot in here, and he turned on the air conditioner and gave me that cold air circulating. So that provided me with something that I didn't have before. That's called a positive benefit. A positive benefit you can never benefit from, even if there was no discussion about it. Even if he came in and did it on his own for you. If I'm in here squinting, trying to read like this, and a non-Jew feels bad for me, and he comes in and turns on the light for me, I have to leave the room. I'm not allowed to benefit because there's you're not allowed to benefit from the malacha.
He did it for himself.
Unless he
He
did it
sits
for
down next to
himself.
you to read,
If
then
he did it
it's-
for himself, then
he
it's
sits down to
mutter.
read,
Yeah,
to
but
the
he
light.
sees
Comes in
he's
and
doing it
goes
for
out.
me without any solicitation, without anything at all. He
that's
just
fine.
comes ahead and goes. This is Siman Reish Ayin Vav. Dine ner shehidlik ein Yisrael b'Shabbos. Right, the halachos of a non-Jew. Any Yehudi shehidlik es haner b'shvil Yisrael aser lechol afilu l'mi shelo hidlik b'shvilo. A non-Jewish person who lights a candle on Shabbos, it is usher for everybody, even for other people who had nothing to do with it. And it doesn't matter. A positive benefit from a guy is never. Oh, I don't want to say never because in certain situations, the chola, etc.
So if he sees that I'm sitting in the dark, and he goes, "Oh, I don't want you to sit in the dark," and he turns on the light, you have to leave.
You have to leave the room. That's all
But
that
if
says,
they
yeah.
go, "Oh, I guess I want to have some light too,"
Then it's
but they,
mutter, yeah,
but they know
that's
the
mutter.
halachas
Yeah,
well
that's
enough.
mutter. That's mutter.
And
to
they
do,
sit there and
yeah.
go, "I want some light,
Yeah,
so I'll
that's
go
what to
sit
do.
down."
As long as they're benefiting from it, even if they know that they're doing it for that reason, as long as this is like Shabbos guys for Dorei Doros, is what they knew these things. But anytime it's a positive benefit, it has to be that he's benefiting from it also. And even then, it's not always mutter. Even then, that's only mutter if it's a specific type of a benefit, like a candle. Where one act is the same for one person or 5 people or 10 people. But let's say like heating up water, let's say you forgot to make hot water for yourself on Shabbos. You just forgot to turn on your urn, right? Your urn is there, it's all set up, it's all ready. You just forgot to turn it on. So you're not allowed to, even if he recommended it on his own, even if it was, you didn't say anything to him at all, if he came in and said, "Oh, it's so cold in here, I bet you would let's have some coffee together," and he turns on, that's usher to do, because cooking water is something that the more people that need, the more that will get cooked, and there's a Gzeira b'derabanan, maybe he'll increase it. Understand what I'm saying? It's only, this is getting too complicated. Basically, it's like this. The Gemara says the famous line, Ner la'echad, ner la'mea. You ever heard that expression? Ner la'echad, ner la'mea. One candle works for one person, and it works for 100 people the same way. So that type of a malacha, where it's a singular malacha that works for multiple people, you're allowed to benefit when you're benefiting together with a non-Jew. But if it's a type of malacha like cooking or drawing water from a well is the example in the Gemara, any malacha where more people would require more malacha, even in this case it's not. Even in this case it's just flipping the same switch on and off on the urn. But no, cooking requires more cooking for more people. So then you're not allowed to benefit.
Doing extra for you.
Yeah, even let's say you're walking by a guy's house and he's your friend, and sometimes you have coffee together. Let's say he has a special coffee set in his Shabbat house that he keeps for you when you come over to have coffee with him, and he sees you walking the shul on Shabbos. He says, "Oh, I just made a pot of coffee. Come have a." And he made it mamish for himself. He didn't even know you were coming. You're not allowed to benefit from it. Any type of a malacha that has the potential to increase for more people, you're not allowed to benefit from.
If you have more people in a room, it takes more.
No, but that's the one malacha is turning it on. I'm saying that's the one is letting the chashmal go through it. I think that's the same. I think it's the same thing. Okay, now all of this is when it comes to positive. So certainly, again, in any case where you're not allowed to benefit, which again is only a case where there's no tsar, a person who's in a lot of tsar, certain things you're allowed to in some cases. But obviously, any time that you're not allowed to benefit, you're certainly not allowed to tell the guy to do it or hint to him to do it, right? Even if you would do it on his own, you would have to leave the room. So okay. One exception, just so you should know, is if the guy turns on the heat in the house. They say if it's very cold outside, and a guy turns on the heat, you don't have to leave. Okay. Now, but what's a negative benefit? A negative benefit is where the guy is doing something. It could be the same type of malacha min Torah, but he's not providing me with something. He's turning off the light, right? So we don't view that as he provided me with darkness, right? What did he do? He took away the fire. He took away the thing that was making the light. That's called a negative benefit. So when it comes to a negative benefit, you're allowed to benefit from it on Shabbos, but you're not allowed to tell a guy to do it, right? Turning off a light, right? If I left the light on in my bedroom by accident, I can't sleep, right? So I'm not allowed to tell a non-Jew. That's a separate isser. If I'm mir la'akum, I'm not allowed to tell a guy what to do on Shabbos if it's a malacha. But I'm allowed to benefit from it if he does it on his own, right? Because that's a negative benefit. If he just would decide to turn off the light on his own. So then we come to this idea called remiza shelo b'derech tzivui, where I'm allowed to hint something without being direct about it. Because if I would say direct, I can't sleep unless the light is turned off. That's already considered like I've said to the guy, turn off the light. But if I say I can't sleep in here because it's so bright, so I've made it clear to the non-Jew what the situation is, but I didn't mention the malacha. I was not mitzaveh him what to do, and now he's going to go on his own volition and turn off the light, and that's something I'm allowed to benefit from, so that's mutter.
Even if he doesn't.
He doesn't need any benefit there. Yeah. He said he could see me like suffering in this, just shut off the light and walk onwards. That's fine because he didn't provide me with anything, right? He took away something that was bothering me. He didn't provide me with anything. So the same thing with just going out back to the refrigerator, which is where we started from. So to open up the refrigerator, you can ask the non-Jew to do directly. To close the door, you can tell him to do directly because again, those are both psik ratios, right? The opening and closing the door is mutter. It's turning on and off a light, which is a secondary thing that's mutter to do. Unscrewing the light bulb, though, that's already an actual act, right? That's actually doing it. So that you would have to do remiza shelo b'derech tzivui. You have to say something like, as long as that light is working in the fridge, we're not going to be able to use it on Shabbos, and hopefully he'll understand what that means. And if not, you have to try a few different ways and try to get it across there.
I'm going to call you back every 5 minutes.
Right. As long as that light bulb is still where it is, you will have to be very available this whole Shabbos to be helping.
Would that include like carrying if there's no eruv?
Yeah, carrying with no eruv is also malacha. What?
You'd have to hint.
No, that's considered as something that you couldn't have gotten otherwise. That's that positive benefit. If a non-Jewish person brings food, I'm not allowed to eat it because that's providing something that he did a malacha in order to provide something to me. So that I wouldn't be allowed to eat it.
Can I ask a really weird one?
Yeah, sure.
If you've created an eruv at a campsite and a non-Jew sees that you can't make it to the bathroom because there's no light, and they took a flashlight that was on for all of Shabbos and put it on the path so that you could follow your way to the bathroom, would you be allowed to use it? They did it of their own
They did
accord.
the flashlight out of the Eruv.
They took it out of the eruv
But it's the
and
light
put
of
it
the
on the.
flashlight.
Wow, interesting. I think yes. One second.
Now, whether they could have benefited, they have their own flashlight. They can just take their own flashlight and do it. But this flashlight, I guess, would also have helped them.
Interesting. 1 second. He said he was carrying. He carried from one place to another place, from inside the eruv to outside of the eruv, in order to provide you light. I mean, he did it for himself also, or not? He didn't.
Did he really do it for himself? He could carry his own flashlight.
But did he benefit from the light that was there?
Yeah.
In other words, he used it
Yeah.
once it was there? No, if he used it once it was there, then it's mutter. Then it's for sure mutter. You know, then
Okay.
if he actually used it. But I'm just trying to think, let's say he didn't. Let's say he just was a good Samaritan and
Yeah.
he didn't want to use
He
it.
went home.
And that's very interesting. I don't know. That's very interesting. He took it out of the eruv in order to put it there. I'm not sure. That's very interesting. I'll try to. Why that all sounds very good. I'm sure it's high
give you
list on the
tons.
common chai list that he gets. I'm sure it's very high on the list.
Maybe you should just take advice.
Yeah. I'll just mention one or two other things just since we got onto this, even though it's not really the topic, but just to finish this up. But there's another interesting thing about this, that the poskim say that if a non-Jew, again, if he's doing the malacha for himself, and again, it's a type of malacha that doesn't require extra, so then you're allowed to benefit from it. So what if, let's say, let's say we're here and the non-Jew walks by and he accidentally, turns off the light, and then we all go, oh, what happened? And then he quickly turns the light back on again. So there the halacha is you're allowed to benefit from it. Why? Because that's also called he's doing it for himself. If he's doing it like to save himself embarrassment or to save himself, getting in trouble. So even though technically he's doing it for you, we consider that he's doing it for himself, right? In other words, because he got himself into this mess, and now he's doing it to get himself out of the trouble. That yet you're allowed to benefit from.
So I have a question. If you're with someone who's not Shomer Shabbos, and they do the same exact thing that you just said, so you have to leave the room?
It's much worse.
No, but let's say
Yeah, because those non-religious are like, but yeah, but I don't keep Shabbat.
No,
I just turn the light
not
on."
that one, but I'm saying that one you just said, where they accidentally turned off the light
and then turned it back
and
on.
then turned it back on.
Yeah.
Do you leave, where do you go?
Okay, that's also a good one. I don't know.
A
Non-religious Jew. Yeah,
A Jew who's
non-religious
not
Jew.
religious. Or they all of a sudden open the fridge, and the fridge is now open, and the light is.
Well, okay, so I mean, that you could use it because that they didn't mean to do it either.
Okay.
They didn't realize
Or
they
they
were doing
knock the
malacha.
magnets off the top of the fridge, and the fridge is now open, and then they and stick the magnets back on the fridge. Does that mean you don't use the fridge the rest of the time? Or
No, I don't know if that would not allow the whole fridge, but it's an interesting try. I'm not sure about this. So how does it work with
the
a
new
non-Jewish
types of
person?
magnets, you can't
Yeah,
unscrew the lights. You have to take. You can go on
To
YouTube.
cover over the sensor or something.
You can go on YouTube and you buy these strong magnets and you stick them on the top of the hinge, and they stop the light from
Usually
working.
You need to
That's so cool.
look around to
Where the
go
sensor
around
is.
where the sensor goes to make it around. Keep the door
Until
open,
you find out where it
until you
is.
find where it pulls the thing closed. It thinks that the
There's a magnet on the door essentially, and that's what turns it.
it's for
Right.
the
Got it.
one refrigerator, that it's not only when
So
there's
the
many
trick-
other sensors. and
So the
stuff.
trick is to tape it down so that the
magnet
observant
stays there, the
person
magnet stays
doesn't
the whole time.
bang the.
If the non-Jew and you're thinking, then asks you directly, do you want me to? Can you?
So
you say
you
yes,
can't
or
say
you have
no.
to-
You
you
can't
have to
say
say
yes.
yes.
You can't say
Like,
yes.
oh,
You
you
can't
want
say
me to-
yes.
You say
Yeah,
like,
you
it
could
would
say
be nice.
yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah, but saying you can't say yes. You can't say yes. You could say maybe. I'm not sure how you could say that.
I see people a lot of times
Yeah,
asking,
I hear
do
you
you want
saying
me
that.
to?
According to some poskim, you're not even allowed to like lead them into your house. That we're not machmir like that. But according, I think Rosh Zalman Orbach says that was machmir, that just by going out to this whole halacha was only if the guy happens to be there. But like to go out into the street and bring something into your house, you're already telling them to do something. Again, we're not. We do that. We'll go and find the person who has the the worker
Yeah, but
who's
you mean
working
there was
with that.
one non-Jewish person who worked for a family, and he was like busy every shop.
Yeah, that happens. That happens in the wherever the neighborhood is.
What if the non-Jew is your employee? So they do something, they do a malacha for you, but also like they benefit from making their employer happy.
No, but that's still considered. It's only in a situation where they like mess something up and now they have to like kind of fix it up. But they talk about, let's say, in a hotel or something like that, where like the workers in a hotel are not really doing it for you. They don't really care about you. They're doing it for their job. Whoever happens to be in room 4:02, that's who they're boiling the water for to make the coffee. Whatever it is that they're doing, but they still say you're not allowed to do it because they're doing that malacha for you. For the Jewish person, right? That they're having in mind. So that would not be you'd not be allowed to do that.
So the housekeeper
Okay, so now I've
washes
got
the
another
dishes
one.
with.
You're on a cruise ship.
No, washing dishes. I'll just address that for a second. Washing dishes is that she's not doing the malacha for you. That if it's her job to make sure the dishes are clean, there are many ways that you can make the dishes clean without breaking halacha. If she's choosing to use the hot water and a soap and a sponge and all that, that's her business. She's not doing that for you. That's for sure. Anytime that a guy, that's what I was thinking about with your case, but the only way that he would provide light is by turning on a different light. But anytime they're doing a malacha to make their life more easy, that's not malacha for you. As long you could say wash the
you're
dishes.
benefiting because it's good that she's washing with hot and
But that's that's just making her life easier. If she would use the cold water and a plastic baggie and liquid soap, we get it clean. Also, it would just take her a lot longer. So she's choosing to use the hot water. That's for her business. That's not what you're saying. Yeah.
You're on a cruise ship at Shabbos.
Okay. Are you allowed to be on a cruise ship on Shabbos? I guess so. You are. Yeah.
And it's got those keys, and you've taped the door shut so that. And the usher person looked at it and said, "Can't have that," and takes the tape off.
Right.
And so now.
So you don't need to be on a cruise ship. We have this in Poland every year.
Okay, so I'm sitting there outside the door of the room. I'm just plopped on the floor.
No, you're allowed to ask an Jew to open the door.
Okay, so I'm just sitting there.
No, that's
and he goes, "What's
like,
your problem?" And I said, "I'm locked out of my room." So I just sat there, and then he stuck the thing. So now I'm stuck in the thing with, now what do I do?
Right.
So I propped the door open again.
With the inside, you lock it. And then
No, there was no. So I just propped the door open again. And of course.
And they close it again?
Were you stuck in
What? No, so I just sat on the floor again.
Okay, so halakha, so in that case, like what we do when we go in Poland, we have a whole group of the groups of a few hundred girls that are there for Shabbos. Most people tell if they can to leave the rooms unlocked and just have to deal with it. But the halacha is, again, it's the same thing that we said before, that the tzorech Shabbos, if it's a major need and getting into your room, to go to sleep or to get something that you need, a lot. It's called a tzorech. So you would be and opening the lock like that is only a derabanan. So we said, two derabanan is telling a guy to do a derabanan in order to get something that you need, like to get into your room, is mutter to do on Shabbos. But you can't. But we tell the girls like this: if you're going to do it, you can't just go back and forth, just like, I forgot my nice headband or whatever. That you wouldn't be allowed to do. It's only for a serious, So we let them go in once Friday night after the meal and once Shabbos day after the meal. But that's it.
So how about an LED issue then?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that the issue with the LED? You're opening the door.
Yeah.
It's a secret that the little light's going to come on.
No, but you need a malacha. It's a malacha derabanan, but I'm saying you're using an electric lock. The whole thing is a magnetic key. It's all so that the whole thing is it's not minat Torah, but because of the derabanan, you're allowed to ask an Jew to do it.
We were once in a hotel for family
I'm just going to stop the record there.
We arranged